Right now, AI is provoking all sorts of reactions: fear, excitement, overwhelm, skepticism. And there are very few coaching conversations that I'm having today or group sessions where AI is not coming up in some way, shape, or form. I personally use LLMs extensively across every area of my work and life, and at its best, I have found it to be completely transformational. I do sometimes think, though, that when it comes to AI and leadership specifically, we're sometimes asking the wrong questions. Instead of worrying about whether AI is good or bad, what if we asked a different question? What if we asked instead what excellent could actually look like? If a leader used AI brilliantly over the next 12 months, how could their thinking improve? How could their decision making improve? What could happen to their sense of cognitive overload, which I know is a huge thing inside all sizes of business, ranging from small businesses to large organizations? And I'm curious about what separates really high quality AI leadership from pure noise, hype, and chaos. One of the themes in today's conversation is that AI only really meets you where you are. Yes, of course, it can then take where you are and leverage that and build on where you are. But realistically, if your thinking lacks depth, clarity, judgment, and criticality, then AI is only going to amplify that problem. Garbage in, garbage out. I've had this conversation with numerous people working in all sorts of different fields. And I've even had this conversation with my own team. If you use AI well, though, it can dramatically improve the quality of your thinking and your decisions, your workflow, your leadership. So today I am joined by the AI governance and cybersecurity expert, Dr. Adeel Shaikh Muhammad. And we're going to talk about what good AI leadership looks like today, what the best teams are doing differently, and why a lot of organizations are approaching this subject backwards. We're also going to talk in practical terms about what tools are genuinely worth understanding right now and having in our own personal and work-based toolkits and arsenals. So it becomes a bit of a checklist for ourselves so that we know and we can feel a little bit comfortable that we know what it is that we should really be taking advantage of today. This is the Refreshing Leadership Podcast with me, Maya Gudka, and I'm now going to hand over to Adeel. So Adeel, welcome to the podcast.
So kind of you, Maya. Thank you so very much for having me. My name is Adeel Sheikh Muhammad. I'm acting as a virtual Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, fractional CISO for some of the organization, and also in the AI governance space. So I'm a big advocate of this AI governance, ethical governance, responsible AI side of it, and I'm author of two books in the same space, cybersecurity and AI, and also doing my doctorate in the same space.
Oh, excellent. So I'm going to dive straight into some questions that I think will be of relevance to my listeners. As people are starting to think about leveraging AI optimally, if they were to look ahead in 12 months, what does good actually look like for a leader who gets AI right? How might their day feel different if they've done this well?
High quality decisions with less friction, not just more outputs. People are majorly focusing on more outputs, whereas overall it's increasing productivity. Don't get me wrong, but we need to have high quality decisions with less friction, less rework, fewer wrong decisions, and lesser cognitive overload, right? So, usually their days are starting with AI generated context, which is not a chaos, fewer reactive tasks, and more thinking time. And they don't check everything, they review and decide. For example, in terms of from the leadership point of view, if instead of reading 10 reports, if we can get one synthesized brief and then we can challenge it, or ask AI to challenge it, that would be way better. Similarly, instead of writing from scratch, I define it, right? So small use cases. So AI does not just make you faster, it makes you wrong less often, I must say.
Oh, I like that. And there was some other things you said there. So in let's say in 12 months time leaders actually made good progress in this and it will be continuously evolving. Ideally, we would like them to be experiencing less cognitive overload, which I know 100% is a pain point today. You said something about clearer decisions, right? And it sounds like more confidence in decisions. So you're being wrong less often because you can better marshal more inputs and then only need to do more of a review function, and therefore use different types of AI to be able to improve the quality of that decision making without having to increase cognitive overload. So that sounds like a great future. Was there anything else that you mentioned in there?
Yeah, 100%. The biggest upgrade is not the speed, it's the decision quality.
Yes. So, yeah, we're not just looking for speed, we're looking for quality of decision. If I needed to know the top 3 to 5 tools that every AI leader or team should be embracing over time, what should I be aware of there?
So that depend on the use cases. The leaders should focus more on the use cases side of it, not the tool side of it. Some of the tools have different use cases, but think from that use case perspective. That's the dilemma in the market, that people don't go with the use cases, they are just following that hype, right? But if you ask me, like 4 5 tools, so for example, if a leader need to do some thinking and structuring ideas, the chat gpt is doing a good job there. If they want to build something, Claude is doing a good job there. For meetings and documentations, Copilot is doing good now. And if somebody need to do fast research, then Perplexity is amazing there. Similarly, for organizing ideas and organizing thinking on a piece of paper, then Notion AI is amazing. And Grammarly for communication clarity.
I think you've rightly challenged the idea that we go from a bottom up tools based approach and actually think about what it are the outcomes, which is why it's nice that we started with what good looks like, right? So knowing what good looks like, you then can figure out what are the use cases that you're focused on and therefore what are the best tools. That said, I think it just gives everyone a little bit of comfort to know, as you described, for thinking and structuring ideas, chat GPT, building something. And when you say building something, what exactly do you mean?
So for a small tool, again, go back to the use cases, right? So for example, I built an extension for my browser for autocomplete. There are hundreds of extensions for autocomplete, but they were not meeting my needs, right? So I created this small extension which is specifically for my needs from Claude, right? So if you want to build a small tools, a small applications just for yourself, just for your team, Claude is doing a great job there.
Amazing. Then you've got Copilot, and then you mentioned a few others that have been around for even longer, right? Like Grammarly. And then Perplexity, I must say, amongst my master's group, we have a big alumni group. People are just loving Perplexity. And then was there a final tool? Was
Yeah,
there
so Notion
Notion?
AI for organizing thinking and thinking out loud, I must say, because whenever you are pouring your ideas there, it can organize amazingly well.
That's really helpful, and it just gives people a landscape to be aware of. And then when we're thinking about, let's go back to my leader, right, who is wanting to leverage AI to make their day feel different, but then they also want to be thinking about a team level and an organizational level. So let's have a look at those two levels. What are teams doing differently when AI is genuinely embedded? And I'm going to add to this there, because I'm doing quite a lot of coaching around this now, where people are, it would be an organization and they really want to have that digital disruption and AI disruption. There can be a chaos phase, right? There can be a phase where actually everybody needs to be trying a lot of things. And then the right sort of approach needs to emerge. And some of it is experimentation initially. But I'm curious about what you've seen that successful teams are doing in this space.
There's a shift required. So from the information sharing, if you have to be, more focused on insight sharing. Meetings for update need to be meetings for decisions, right? Teams should use AI for some use cases, not for just saying that we are AI driven from today, right? So what I'm seeing in the market is that people, like, it's from the board side that the board is emphasizing more on using AI. There are no use cases. So from the team perspective, it's something which need to be in the workflow. AI need to become a part of workflow. That, for example, before submitting anything, it should run it through AI just for the clarity, right? Less duplication of efforts across team. And similarly, weekly reporting becomes AI generated. So some of the use cases where we can have some more productivity or efficiency, or we can reduce some time, or we can save some cost, right? So AI is removing the need of catch up. Teams should align continuously, and the best teams don't work harder, they just waste less time, less efforts.
Oh, wow. Okay, you've said a lot there actually, and I think it is the practical stuff that needs to be picked up on. You mentioned, first of all, a mindset shift, right? So this is not like, okay, we've got this tool, it's good, it does a summary. It's actually, well, no, we need that summary for decision making, and that suddenly up levels it. But it might not be decision making, it might be something else. It might be a summary for the purpose of then some actions that need to be taken that then need a time frame around them, right? So you get to decide what that use case is and what that purpose is and what the real value is of that meeting. You then use the tool to accelerate that process. And I think that's very important because I spend a lot of time coaching people around. They say, a lot of time is going in meetings and they're not always productive. And when we break it down, it's because they haven't got even the clarity on what the purpose of the meeting is. So you need to get that purpose and clarity first, and then you can use the tool accordingly.
There are
Right.
so many POCs and demos and trials are going on, especially in terms of AI, and nobody knows what they are trying to solve. Nobody knows the use cases. As I mentioned, that some of the companies who has already fired hundreds of employees and now they are hiring back, right? So again, the point is that there was no as such objective. There was no AI consultant sitting with them who was trying to discuss and decide what they are trying to achieve.
It's such an important point you're making. And I think this is where we really do need to challenge the way that AI is being thought about. And I have the same conversations with my own team, right? Where I say, look, I want us to use it as extensively can. I use it extensively on every aspect of my work and life, right? But AI has to meet you where you are. So what you can't do is farm things out and then think that's the answer. You need to challenge and challenge and challenge until you get the quality of answer that you actually need or the quality of output that you actually need. So wherever you are limited and not critical in your thinking, you will get stuck at that level and rubbish in. You'll get rubbish in and rubbish out. What I always say is like, what's the goal here, right? Feel free to use it, but I would expect then that you've got more review time to make it a better output afterwards, right? Not just that tasks are being squashed down and the quality is getting squashed down. So going back to your original point about it's not about speed, it's about quality. I think that is a real mantra that needs to be better clarified inside organizations in the way that we work.
Yes, Maya, again, to echo the same point, like if you are, for example, your day to day activities, can you write down what activities you are doing on daily basis, and can you ask the same activity one by one to the same AI which you are using every single day, that how I can automate that, how I can reduce my time. It will guide you one by one, and that practice is not for yourself but for your team also, right? Step by step, that I do this 100 talks in a month, and let's try to do one by one and see where AI can help me, where AI can automate this, where AI can. Meta has done a practice where they are asking every single employee to replicate what they do using AI. So it's a little scary from the point of that they might lose their job in future, but right now the
Well, they
space
did,
is
didn't
that.
they? They had a
Yeah,
massive.
exactly. For Claude, as per the information, and Anthropic only have one marketing guy in the whole organization. So how he is managing? He has multiple AI agents who are helping him, right? So it's all about that. Your load will increase. You can do multiple people work. Actually, the comparison will be a human which is using zero AI versus a human which is using less AI versus a human which is using more AI. So it will not be like you are more intelligent than me. No, it will be the case that who is using what AI and how much productive it can be by hiring one person.
Yes. Something that you mentioned about you still need to be doing the review, you still need to be doing that final piece. And so criticality and critical thinking doesn't go anywhere. We need more of that, right? We need the ability to quickly read and challenge and improve things. So even that human that is using loads of I would argue that the final one, the even better option, is the critical human that is using loads of AI, because there still needs to be the ability to challenge, push back, and keep refining purpose in what you're doing. And so you could here's one for you. I reckon you could have somebody that's using a reasonable amount of AI, but they're highly critical. And I reckon that that would be as and more powerful than somebody who's less critical but using lots, right? Because the quality piece.
Exactly. Human should be always in the loop. That is the core of AI governance, also, right? You are talking about that human in the loop, human in the loop, and human in the loop. We are emphasizing a lot on that. That need to be there. Otherwise, you have seen in the market that what losses AI can do. And there was a very great researcher. She was using OpenClaw extensively, and she noticed that OpenClaw was taking decision without her permission. So she was arguing and again with the OpenClaw, and to an extent that she found out that basically after a lot of discussion with AI tried to summarize everything into one para for himself. So in that summary, that core instruction words was removed, that don't take any action without my permission. Just by removing that line, it was a chaos. It was taking decision by itself, it was replicating itself by buying online servers for bitcoins without the permission. So I'm really happy you bring up this point of the AI governance, that there need to be referees in the playground, there need to be always human in the loop.
Yes, exactly. And yes, part of that is the checking function, which could seem a little bit like dull, but actually to me there's a lot of creativity as well, where you get to make sure that things are correct and that it's not going rogue, and that the summary is actually the things that need to be in there. But I think you also then, when you have all of that, have an opportunity to do bigger thinking and be creative and imaginative in the way that you're using things. And I believe that's the bit that we do need to prioritize or make space. The other thing that this makes me feel is that I've had a lot of other conversations, for example, in the big four, where they're saying that although AI is a set time saver, for example, in the bread and butter functions like audit, however, what the manager levels and above are finding is that they're getting garbage in and garbage out from some of these reports. They're then asking their teams to explain why they have put certain language in, and the team cannot explain the language that's in the report, right? Because people are using this and then not really understanding what's in there. On one hand, we are well placed, for those of us who haven't grown up in an AI era. We have the faculty, we have the critical thinking, we have the sort of mental stamina to be able to rigorously check something. My worry is, though, that the more that you don't have that, or that you've had access early on to some of this, the more you can lose some of that. And I wondered what you've come across on this front. Have you noticed any differences depending on the stage of career, the age of people, as to how critically they are able to use these tools?
Maya, to answer your question, let's go back to the training side of it. We are not training our AIs. So the problem is that we try to get the same like one prompt we are copy pasting to different AI models, different LLMs all the time, and just trying to get. So Alex is a business teacher. He highlighted a great point on this, that just treat it as an employee. Just try to train, and you never do that, that like you are training one time and you are saying that you are fired, right? You give that tool, that employee, a little time, right? So garbage in and garbage out, because you have not trained that, right? And data is the new oil, right? So number one, the ownership is not defined. Number two, it's not trained. If you are training it, like what is your writing style? I'm not used to of writing dashes, but every time ChatGPT is giving dashes. So it happens all the time. You have to
I always
train it
have to
properly.
prompt it to remove those afterwards. I say, can you please remove these long fat dashes that no one's ever used in normal writing? Yeah. Such a
Exactly. So Maya,
giveaway.
so the best way is, as a practical approach, tell ChatGPT or whatever you are using that give me a PDF for what you know about me, and then try to add stuff to that PDF. And every time you start new conversation, just attach that document. So and every time he knows the context, I'm
He or
sure he
she,
knows. Yeah,
it.
exactly. It 100%. So we are calling it as a master prompt. So every time we are talking to it, we are sharing that master prompt, and then it knows how what to write, what not to write, what words it should use, what words it should not use, and then it will give you better results, not garbage in, garbage out thing.
This is all really interesting. What I'm going to do is I've got a lot more questions for you, Adil. I'm going to save those for the second conversation. So we're going to wrap up this conversation here, and we have sort of lifted the lid on these topics, and I do want to probe a little bit deeper. But for now, we're going to leave it here. Is there any last word on what we've talked about that you wanted to add in?
Just as a last thing for the leaders, that use AI to remove work, not just creating more. Leaders tends to produce more, respond more, and fill time again. Whereas the real advantage is fewer tasks, better focus, and stronger decisions. So that is really required: the clarity, the prioritization, and the intentional work, right? So AI gives you the power, but you still need discipline.
I think that is a great way to end on it. And it's so in line with refreshing leadership because I talk about three pillars: vision building, relational, and influencing. And the third pillar is all about productivity inside organizations, slow productivity, which is the Cal Newport concept, and ways to not create chaotic overload. And I think having that filter of, are we moving towards doing less better rather than just trying to swamp and overload and create that chaos, I think is a really useful decision making filter for going forward. I do have a question back on that, which is, I know, even because obviously I'm in a service provision world. And so I know from other service providers what they're noticing. Let's say they're in financial services, they are very aware of how the amount of time required per client, right? If you're in a chargeable hours model, then if that time is genuinely being halved, right, then there is a business imperative to then increase number of client hours and find other ways to replace that. So that is a genuine business dilemma for in a large part of the knowledge work world where services are being provided and there is chargeability, whether that's law, accountancy. Any ideas about how you apply that thinking there?
Yeah, so that applies to me also. Earlier, if I can fill four fractional CISOs or four virtual CISO roles at the same time, now I can do six, right? And all thanks to AI. So AI is helping me to automate some of my daily tasks. At least if it's saving me 10% of my time, that's more than enough for me to pass on the same savings to my customers.
I guess so. I guess that's true. You get to pass on savings to your customers, but you do therefore need to increase, right? So you therefore need to find that extra business to make sure that you take home the same amount.
Exactly, and obviously the AI tools are not that cheap, so it's right to left, but still the 10%, 20% which I'm saving is still cost more than what the AI tools are. So I think the best approach should be that those savings should be passed to our clients.
Interesting. Well, we're going to leave it there and we're going to pick up again. I have many more questions for Adil. Thank you for this early part. I think it's clarified a lot of the things that people are sort of thinking or worrying about, but you've got the language for it and it really helps us to think strategically about how we're using AI. So thank you so much for this conversation, Adil.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you for having me.